Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of Norm, the Cheers podcast that isn't. I'm Mike. That's Dave. That's Tookie. Adieu. The final Shelley Long episode is our final episode, and also Cheers on Peacock's final episode, almost like they knew the time had come. I want to start this off with an apology to Kirstie Alley. Because Peacock was losing Cheers, I watched some of the old episodes, particularly seasons 10 and 11. And once Kirstie figured out who Rebecca was, it was really funny. I still think it's the right choice. I still don't think it had the narrative arc. I still think this is the right time to wrap it up. But I also feel like, we were kind of saying like, I don't know if I want to go through the Kirstie Alley years, which was potentially unfair to Kirstie. Because there was some great funny work being done by Kirstie and the gang in those final 6 seasons, and I just want to give a little love to the gang for those final 6 seasons. It's not you, it's us.
It really, yeah. Some of those episodes, they're an amazing body of work, and they're incredible, and the cumulative impact of them can't be dismissed. There's just something so kind of unique, especially like now that we're in sort of prestige television, like we're suffused with it, and everything is like a 5 or a 4 season arc with this like very sort of like very sort of like deeply felt relationships at the heart of all of these shows, comedies and dramas. Like I feel like Cheers was in some ways a little bit of the explorer, kind of like figuring out how to manage those kind of like arc centric expectations in a 24-minute format. And it's fascinating to watch these 5 seasons. It's kind of like lay the groundwork for what TV is going to ultimately kind of arrive at in about 30 years.
I mean, also, wait. The writer's strike has begun as well.
Yes.
The WGA strike has begun. Solidarity with everyone in the WGA. Yeah, it's obscene. And, I'm almost glad it's happening just because there's been some great information coming out there about writers. I'm afraid it might only be coming out on Twitter. But just explaining why Hollywood is doing what they're doing and how really evil these major corporations are being, where they're just trying to, they are like, oh, we can't afford this. They have been steadily profitable over the entire length of this contract, making billions and billions of dollars. All the CEOs getting huge raises, making obscene amounts of money. And they're desperately trying to turn writing into gig economy work. And it's really awful. And there are so many people like working for it. I'm just begging people who are maybe not in the union to not scab. We know comics, we know funny writers, we know actors. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a short-term benefit for long-time ruination. Especially comedians. Like one of the few jobs that were available to comics to have a home, to raise a family, to actually have health insurance and all those things were late night writing gigs, and they're trying to kill those jobs. And they're focusing on streaming growth and all this stuff. They're trying to grow all these things like tech companies. And you want to just point out that, that's one of the things that led to the decimation of so many great companies. It was the venture capital, nonstop cancerous growth that killed Toys R Us, that killed so many businesses, and it doesn't have to. Yeah, it's all frustrating. So yeah, to all the brilliant writers on Cheers, we salute you, we respect you. You deserve to be paid a living wage. All writers do. So yeah, don't get mad at writers. Don't make them seem greedy, because they really aren't. They just want to get paid decent money for creating the core of the shit that is making everybody money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Every time they try to put, and I say this as someone who enjoys improv, every time they try to put an improv show on TV, it fucking bombs.
It's a terrible
writers.
It's the wrong awful format. It's a format that absolutely demands writing. It's a collaborative format, and that collaboration starts in the writer's room. Like it has to Try to sail without it, and you're driving a car without a motor. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So solidarity writers, God bless you. God love you. Stay strong. We support you. All right. Cheers. Adieu. The season finale of season 5. We bid farewell to Shelley Long. So much interesting stuff in this episode. I watched it, and at first I was like, oh, I don't enjoy that as much as I remember. Second time, I actually enjoyed it more.
Okay.
I caught a couple of things the second time I didn't catch on the first time, so I'm glad I watched it a second time. The first time I watched it, I got so caught up in, wait a minute. Why can't you be married and write? Like, what the hell are we doing? What the hell are we doing here? You can write a book while you're married. This is insane. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. And then, and I got so frustrated. And also, she's only going to Maine. I live in Boston. I know where Maine is. You visit on the weekends. What the hell are you doing? You own the bar.
You're saying writers can get go visits.
Yeah.
No, we watched Sam drive back and forth to Vermont in one episode.
Yeah, come on. Multiple times.
Yeah.
But here's what I think. And I'm going to get to the recap. We'll do the nuts and bolts that we usually do. But, I mean, everyone knows what happens in this episode. What I realized watching it again, and then watching the series finale where Diane comes back again and talks about this, is Sam and Diane have great chemistry, and they really love each other. And what they are both realizing is that they shouldn't be married. And that's kind of it. It's like, I was focusing on this when it's like, that's not why this marriage isn't happening. It's not the book. It's here's an out, and they both took it. It's sad, but that was what I was at the second time. And I'm almost feeling kind of stupid for getting hung up on the hey, what about that? You could do that. It's like, well, of course you can. They didn't want to. And they've realized it. And she realized she hasn't been creative in this relationship. And he realized she hasn't been creative in this relationship. And he doesn't really want to be married to someone who's writing a book. He doesn't want those things. And it's like he's imagining this future. Like you see that lovely flash forward where he's thinking about what the future is, where he foolishly thinks that starting pitchers win 25 games in the major leagues. And it's like, oh, that's what I want. She doesn't want this. This is my dream. And she's never actually going to be that person who says, I never regretted not writing that book. Yeah.
But I'm wondering, why wouldn't you want to be married to someone who's a published author? I don't know. I'm baffled by that.
Yeah. I mean, I think as much as we love Sam, part of it is just the limitations of who he is as a person, where he wants her to just want to be in the house and take good care of him. And I think on some level, I think that's part of it.
Okay.
And I think a part of it too is, when he talks about all the things she's tried at the end of the ceremony, where it's like, you're bad at this, and you're bad at this, and you're bad at this, and you're bad at this. And part of that is also, you do all of this stuff because you need fame. You need, she makes the joke about not needing adulation. I don't need the vanity. And of course, and he says, it's one of the things I admire about you. It's this little test. And she's like, oh, thank you. Because of course he's seeing do you need that? She does.
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah.
And it's, you know who you are. And she is a person who, and I say this about them both, they're both flawed people. She does not want to put other people's needs in front of hers. She wants to be that person who is at the Cable Ace Awards, thanking her muse and having people admire her and do those things. And that doesn't make her a bad person. It makes her someone who knows who she is. The marriage is them both wanting to try to be something that they are not because they see other people and they see it being held up as something that you should aspire to and want. And they have great chemistry and they're attracted to each other. And they do have a great love for each other and they would not be happy.
I think there's an argument to be made, and I think this episode does a really good job kind of showing it without telling it, that it's a gentle pushback against, like, maybe we shouldn't, maybe it's a gentle pushback against the institution itself. It's not wrong for people, like, there's a problem in society that keeps pushing people like Sam and Diane together to get married, when in fact, like, they are going to be much happier having a relationship that defines itself.
And there's also the argument, as we talk about the writers, there's an argument that there are no happy marriages on Cheers.
Oh. Eesh.
Yeah. The closest I could come, I guess it depends on how you view Norm and Vera. I don't think there's an argument for them being in a happy marriage. There's an affection, he makes the jokes, but yeah, it's a tough marriage.
Yeah.
That's a tough beat. The only case I could find that was potentially pro-marriage was Woody and Kelly. And they put it off forever. They don't get married for a long, long time.
Or the only there are no happy marriages on Cheers between people who still exist, because I would make the argument that Coach as a widower, he was happy with his wife.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yep. Very true. Yeah, but they don't show that marriage. Yeah, that's a good point. They show a happy guy, and I think on some level that might factor into Sam thinking this is what he wants so much because he admired Coach so much. Yeah. And we found out later on he wanted a kid. He wanted to be a dad. He wants that. And maybe with the right person, maybe Sam could have. Although, I did not watch much Frasier, but I know he attempts to get married and it fails on Frasier.
Yeah.
There is maybe a case that Sam could find himself in a happy marriage. I don't think Diane wants to be married. I think Diane likes the idea of getting married. I don't think she wants to be in a marriage.
I think you're right, and I think like this episode and this show, like coming of age at this time in the 80s, as divorce rates are kind of like skyrocketing, and people are trying to figure out, like, what does that mean, and what does that represent about us in society? What are we doing wrong? And the truth is, like, we're not doing anything wrong. And I think that's kind of what this episode is saying. Like, it's not us, it's everything else. There's if you find yourself 40 something and not married, it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's the world's fault for saying you should want this thing that maybe is not for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say too, like, as a woman person, there was a time, and it still prevails in a lot of cultures, where it's like you're sort of socially conditioned to believe that marriage is the end all be all. And of course there are those hating ass aunties who will, who will suffer through a horrible marriage only to just be able to say, for the sake of being able to say, like, well, I'm married, because it's a status symbol in some cases. And I feel like I'm part of that tail end of a generation, at least in America, where it was like there was a cultural expectation for a woman to be married, especially because, like, for someone Diane's age, a woman couldn't have, like, by the time she would be, whoops, someone's also a feminist, but
Dewey's an ally.
Yeah, but for someone Diane's age, at the time that she would be getting married to Sam, it was like women were just barely allowed to have their own bank accounts and credit cards. So, so
still
now,
wild.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? But so now I think there is a case to be made that, like, we're shifting away from the whole you need to get married argument, because women no longer have to rely on a partner or their father co-signing for anything. Women have like options. Everything isn't rainbows and sunshine. Obviously, we still kind of don't have much choice on what we do with our bodies, but that's neither here nor there. But at least we have control over our bank accounts, right? So women now, in terms of the marriage thing, have options, and men, rather than just being like, I have to be married because it's expected of me and I can't really be socially mobile or have some sort of meaningful existence without the cosign of a male partner or father. Women now have options, and like, men have to actually be likable.
Yeah.
You actually have the option to like your partner now. This is
ideally.
This is speaking strictly for like hetero situations, but like, in Diane's time, I feel for her just because it was very much like a social obligation. Same with having kids. It's very much,
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, and I don't necessarily mean this in a pejorative way, you can't imagine Diane Chambers as a mom. She's not built for it. You can, in some ways, imagine Sam as a dad, simply because you see instances of him, like, putting the needs of his friends ahead of his own. He wants to help them. He gives advice. He does that. Something I thought about as I just kind of pondered with this for a couple of days. That was also one of the nice things about Cheers leaving Peacock on Sunday. I had a couple of days to let this marinate. You don't see instances that I can think of where Diane does that. Diane is much more id. Even though, like, Sam is presented as so id, like, all right, if I'm drinking, I got to drink everything. I need all the women. I need all this. And is the guy with, a couple of addictions. That Diane is really the person who is always like, I want this, so this needs to happen. I have tickets to a show, so I can't work. There aren't really instances that I could think of where Diane is going, all right, you need this, so my needs need to go away for a little while.
And as you say that too, I think that's part of what villainized Diane more in that whole context is the fact that we are just barely a pinky toe out of society's mindset that a woman not being maternal makes her a monster.
Yeah. Diane is not maternal, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it is okay to say, because I think about this with the actors that I knew in LA and with the, like when young comics ask for advice and like, should I move? Should I do this? And it's like, if you need to be famous, then you need to move. And don't judge that need, because you might get it and find out it's not what you thought, and you might not enjoy it, but then you'll know. Like, if you feel that craving in you and you want that, just stop fighting it, because you're going to be unhappy. Just do that thing, because a bunch of people feel that way and we judge the shit out of it. Just go do it. Diane wanted that. She wanted recognition and admiration and validation and all of those things. And it's like, just go, embrace it. Go do that thing. Go do it. Live, take a shot. Yeah. But it doesn't go, but that doesn't go well with being a parent.
Yeah.
Fundamentally. And it's okay to say, I'm not built to be a parent.
And frankly, it doesn't go well with being the spouse of Sam Malone, like bar owner, who's like, hey, can you please work? Can you continue to work at the bar? I like having you around. I need waitresses. It's a terrible partnership in that sense.
Yep.
Like, he needs to be taken care of. And she's, that character is like, you're really kind of like drawing it into sharp focus. Like, that character is not a caretaker. She is something else.
Yes.
Nope. And he wants to be taken care of. And you know what? There's going to be someone out there who wants to take care of you. There are people who that is what they want out of their life. They maybe want to come in and wait tables every once in a while, but mostly be at home and raise a family and do those things. And that's a wonderful desire if that's what you want. Yeah. But yeah, Sam can't. Yeah, Sam can't do that.
In a funny way,
which is really, his. Yeah.
I was going to say, I really feel Boston in this episode. Like, this is where Boston really kind of pays off. Like, the fact that the show is set in, like, the little big city versus New York versus Chicago. You know, Sam is going to stay in his comfort zone. And Diane this is her chance. Like, she sees a chance to outgrow it. And, of course, she's going to seize on it, even if she doesn't, even if she doesn't say it.
Yeah. So apologies to Cheers. Yeah, like they showed it, didn't say it, and they did it really well.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why I really thought fondly of this episode before. And I got a little judgy about it first rewatch and got a lot out of the second rewatch.
I didn't get my second rewatch because my Sunday was kind of nutty. I had rehearsal and then a 2-show day. So I got home about like 10 o'clock. Mike texted and said, reminder, the show's going off Peacock. I was like, okay, great. I took my evening edible just to kind of chill out, sat down on the couch with the weight of the day kind of off of me, settled in to watch a show, and promptly lost about, I would say about 4.5 minutes of show to just being absolutely asleep. Woke up, that edible hit a little quicker than normal, I think just because of the fatigue. So everything I'm going to say about this episode is kind of cloaked in a sort of gauzy haze. So just know that.
Okay.
I tried to go back and watch it, but now it became too difficult to find it. So I apologize.
We don't judge here at Norm the Cheers podcast.
I knew I was walking into it.
Speak for yourself. You have an issue. You have a problem, Mr. Mulaney.
I hope my intervention is 1/3 as star-studded.
It's this.
That's all I can ever.
You're
ask
in it,
for.
pal.
Oh man, this is. What fresh hell is this that my intervention is happening over the equivalent of Zoom?
Sorry. It's what we could afford. Yeah. We wanted to Skype.
Sorry, the free platform was just a little bit more accessible.
Yeah. We're trying to be practical, Dave. All right, so yeah, completely understandable. Tookie, were you clear-headed for your viewings?
I was.
Yes, can count on Tookie.
And this episode broke my heart, man.
Oh,
did it?
Yeah. I'm a sentimental softie at my core. It broke my heart.
Yeah. All right, so we'll do our nuts and bolts real quick. But I mean, I feel like everyone who's watching this knows this episode like the back of their hand. I'll do a quick recap. Yeah. So we've got basically Sumner Sloan comes back to say, I heard you were getting married and it seemed impossible. And I went back to your writing. It's brilliant. And I sent one of your books off to a publisher. They want to publish it. They just think that it needs a little bit more work. You can go to my cabin. Diane is saying, no, I can write with Sam. And there's a meaningless skirt beneath the pool table that has never been there before, has served no purpose and never will be again, except to hide Sam, who is fixing the pool table and is listening to everything that is going on. He goes home to their pink house, which I still love. Goes home, says, pretends not to know about what's going on. And then she tells him what's happening. She is honest about it. And he says, hey, this is great. Maybe you should do this. And she's like, hey, no, we're getting married. In fact, let's get married tonight, because they're panicked about not getting married. Let's get married tonight. He fantasizes about their marriage is going to be. It seems like a beautiful, beautiful image. People don't win 25 games in the majors anymore. And then they have a funny moment of, we'll get married in Cheers. Everyone's witnessed all of our triumphs. Let's get married right here in the house. I don't want those people in my house.
A mood.
Great joke.
Mood. I co-sign emphatically.
Yes. Yeah. Like a bunch of people got married in the comedy studio so that they didn't have to go to their home. That's why that happened.
Yeah.
They go to the bar. Phone call comes in from Sumner. Big advance for the book. Oh my gosh. Diane almost forgets that she's there to get married. Sam finally, before he says, I pronounce you man and wife, they had both said I do. Before pronounce man and wife, you know what? You have to not do this. Go and write this book. Carla is relieved. They have a beautiful little scene at the end. Have a nice life.
Ugh,
she says, oh, I'm going to be back here. Yeah. Says, well, maybe we'll both decide that we want something else. Because he knows. He knows she's denying it. She leaves. He looks up in that wistful moment and says, have a good life. And then he imagines the life that he's now never going to have. And it's quite lovely. And that is Adieu. It's really sweet.
It broke
that last
me.
Is so reminiscent of the season 1 bottle cap. Sam's going to start drinking again scene.
Yeah.
Just like the two of them. Except at this point now, Diane's the one who's a little. She's more inscrutable. Sam, like we can see what Sam is doing. He's got the sort of depth of understanding of the situation, what's going on, whereas he was kind of like previously kind of wrestling with that, that need to drink that she kind of like helps him out of. It was like a lovely inversion of that scene a little bit, and a color we hadn't seen a ton this season, and I was grateful for it.
Yeah, as was I. Tookie, we'll work this backwards. Do you want to do the cold open real quick?
Sure. So we enter into Sam's office where Carla pops in and, looking like, matter of fact, looking like she's on her business. And she goes, Sammy, I've got 3 questions for you. 1, who's going to fix the ball return on the pool table? Sam's like, okay, I'll check that today. Hence why he's underneath the pool table. Mm-hmm. So very good use of that to foreshadow. 2, how much vermouth for next month? Sam's like, an extra case. And 3, why? Carla is just like beside herself. She finally breaks. Oh, come on, don't start with me about or Sam's like, come on, don't start with me about the wedding. And Carla's like, Sammy, it actually looks like you're going to go through with this horrible thing. Why do you want to marry this woman? And Sam's like, I don't know, Carla, it's not easy to explain. Why'd you marry Nick? And Carla responds, why? Because I was stupid. That's why. Well, actually, there was a little more. And you tell anybody about this, I'll kill you. And Sam's like, all right. So Carla explains, Nick made me feel all squishy inside. Squishy. And Sam's like, well, that's how Diane makes me feel, all squishy. To which Carla immediately jumps back. Oh, gross, yuck, double yuck. Oh my God, I'm going to throw up. That's so disgusting. And Sam's trying to call her out. Like, you said the same thing. And she's like, I married Nick because he knocked me up. This is sickening. And Sam insists, like, I only said it because you said it. And Carl's like, no, I need air. She opens the door. She's like, hey, guys, listen to this. Sam said Diane makes him feel all squishy. And Sam's mortified. But then Diane pops in and goes, oh, squishy.
Nice. Dave, what was happening in the world when we bid adieu?
May 7th, 1987 was the date of the episode. The next day, the 8th of May, Gary Hart officially drops out of the presidential race. We talked about Gary Hart. He made a little guest shot earlier this season. Former governor of Colorado?
Senator
from Colorado. The subject of extramarital affair, possibly victim of a setup, kind of a fascinating story. But talk about groundbreaking things. One of the real kind of like hallmarks of like the new sort of media movement, I feel like in the 80s that we're still wrestling with now, even more so, was the coverage of Gary Hart at that time. Nothing was allowed to sort of fade away. Like it was like this stuff just kept getting dragged out until finally he had to end his campaign. So adieu, Gary Hart, as well.
Yep.
President Hart. I don't know if that has a ring to it.
It's a little weird.
The two references to that. One, there's a pretty good movie that got made and sort of did not get noticed called The Front Runner, where Hugh Jackman played Gary Hart.
Oh, I never saw that.
I thought it was pretty good. Wasn't amazing, but it was really pretty good, especially if you lived through that time. And it presented an interesting case for why things happened the way that they happened. And it made you understand that you probably remember it differently than it actually happened.
Yeah, I think this is a case of like the media really kind of shaping the dominant narrative, which was different than I think what the events actually were.
Yeah. So worth watching. Yeah. And a little thing, a show that I really enjoy on Apple TV Plus called For All Mankind, which is, have I referenced that?
Mm-mm.
It's really interesting. It's an alternate history timeline where the Russians landed on the moon first.
Oh.
And how that completely changed the space race, the Cold War, and the futures of America and the Soviet Union. And the first season is flawed, but I think really interesting. And then the next 2 seasons are great, really outstanding. But one of the things, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, like what movie studio does it come from, or who produced
it's Apple
it?
TV original. Apple TV
it's an original.
Yeah. Yep. Completely original series. I think it was their first one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was really good. And one of the things that happened in it is Nixon loses his re-election bid because he was the one who fumbled the space race and let the Russians get there first. Ooh. And yeah, what unfolds after that is very interesting. And one of the things is Gary Hart does become president because he becomes president earlier than he ran initially. Because yeah, there's a whole different series of events. I don't want to give away everything that happens, but the Hart presidency is a factor in that series, and it's interesting. Yeah, it's a fun watch. I would recommend it to everybody.
Duly noted.
Mm-hmm. And it's watch. It's good. Much better than the morning show, which someone had recommended to me. It's the Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon show. Where 46-year-old Reese Witherspoon is the plucky up-and-coming reporter. And I love Reese Witherspoon, but yeah, like we all know that she's been in our lives for like 27 years, right? Yeah. I tried watching those first couple of episodes and I'm like, the fuck? What is this? What's happening?
I mean,
I couldn't get into it.
A gig is a gig, man.
God bless her. I mean, she's getting paid.
Yeah.
It's not me going, shame on all of you for watching it. It's me going, I'm not going to be with you. And I love Reese Witherspoon. I'm a huge Reese Witherspoon fan. But that was one where I'm like, nope, I'm not on board.
It took me way too long to be able to tell her and Kirsten Dunst apart.
Really?
Yeah. Couldn't discern them for the life of me for a good, 10 years.
And yet you still made yourself a success.
Yeah.
That's the Dylan McDermott, Dermot Mulroney
Who are these men? Who is that?
Dermot Mulroney is the one doing really weird shit during my best friend's wedding.
Oh, I haven't seen that, so I don't know.
Oh, put it on the list.
Put it on the list. Great.
It's a movie I enjoy. I really loved it when I saw it. I saw that on an island when I was on tour.
Ooh.
I saw it on an island off the coast of Washington. And it was during that time when I was on tour where I just saw everything. And that was just a very happy week where they had a 2-screen movie theater and they were showing Men in Black, which was not a big, it was not expected to be a big movie and was great. I love that movie. And they were showing My Best Friend's Wedding and I loved it. It was great.
Those are two excellent genre films.
Yep. You go back and watch it now and I still enjoy My Best Friend's Wedding, but I watch Dermot Mulroney and I'm going, dude, Cameron Diaz, don't marry this guy. There's a bunch of red flags here. Ooh.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I want to go back and I want to protect Cameron Diaz in that movie, but still a fun rom-com.
There's so much that we as a society fail to protect Cameron Diaz in a lot of ways. So
we did.
Yeah.
We've let her down a lot.
Great. She's great. She's a megastar who somehow still manages to be underappreciated. Yep. I will go to my grave with that. Cameron, awesome. All right. So we delved into the meat of this episode quite a bit. And I thought they really did a lovely job with it. I just, we're going to go through the categories, but to put a little button on our initial reactions, I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I think I went back and read some quotes from the people behind the scenes at Cheers who were potentially a little unkind to Shelley Long, I think.
Oh no.
Not vicious, but like basically saying, like, you know what? Thank you for leaving. Like the show had been too focused on that relationship, and it needed to be about the bar, the workplace comedy that we always wanted it to be. And that's when it really became the show we wanted it to be instead of will they, won't they? And it's like, all right, you didn't need to say it. And, maybe part of it is, look, we need to sell people on why this show is continuing without the central relationship anymore. We need to tell them that it was always supposed to be this. So I guess on some level that's survival. You just need to keep the show going. Okay. But yeah, it wasn't brutal, but it wasn't as kind as it could have been towards Shelley Long. And maybe you can't make too big a deal of her leaving because then you're kind of telling people, hey, this incredibly important piece of the show that you love is gone. And maybe just to survive, you have to tell people, hey, this is fine with us. We're comfortable with it. And that's how you get 6 more seasons of a classic sitcom.
Right.
But yeah, I could also feel for Shelley maybe some sentiment of, hey, you don't need to say, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
I mean, she had Money Pit.
She had a couple of swings. She definitely had some swings, and they missed. Money Pit was probably her best swing. And she was still on Cheers when that came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then she had Hello Again. She had Troop Beverly Hills, which was which is the movie that everyone points to. It was like, you left Cheers for this?
I saw bits and pieces of it during like a strange rerun period as a kid, possibly on TBS or something, because they're notorious for airing those kinds of films. I didn't hate it. But then again, I was like probably 5, but I didn't hate it. I don't understand the Troop Beverly Hills slander.
It's a fine little, it is what it is. It's a movie for you to watch when you're home from school, when you're sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everything is going to be like, Saving Private Ryan. It doesn't have to be. It's okay for Troop Beverly Hills to exist in the world.
I can't imagine Shelley Long portraying a grizzled vet, but he has the range. It's just not her.
She's got time. She's got time.
I guess.
It's a hard niche too for that particular actor to, in 1987, 1988 to start walking into movies. Meg Ryan's kind of in her ascendancy, and Hollywood obviously is not going to acquiesce to smart, funny, like comically sensible, but with enough of like a dramatic underpinning to kind of like, to give movies a little bit of color, a little bit of weight. You could just see those two cars like about to collide, and Meg Ryan kind of pulls ahead, I feel like, but it's a bummer that that it couldn't accommodate both of them.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, it was the 80s in Hollywood. They considered Shelley Long, pour a little out for Don Lemon, to be past her prime.
Sure.
When she was coming into this. It'd be, as you referenced Meg Ryan, like, you can't pretend that part of what probably hurt Shelley was Meg Ryan was significantly younger than Shelley Long. When she was done with Cheers and getting out there into the world, Money Pit was kind of the last movie where she got to be a single woman lead. And when she got out there, she kind of was, Hollywood was telling her, all right, you're the mom now. And we just watched her play for 5 years a character that we all just said was not a mom.
No.
Yep.
So she was walking into a really tough situation as a talented actor where they're like, all right, what do we do with Shelley Long? Because, yeah, we're entering the golden age of rom-coms. And they're feeling like, I don't know if she's... How old was Shelley Long at this point? Dave, could you look that up real quick if you could, please? I mean, she's in her 30s, which, it sounds insane to say, but in 80s Hollywood, that was not a young woman.
Yeah, she'd be 36, 37 at this point.
Really?
Yeah. Meg Ryan was mid-20s at this point.
What the fuck?
It was 86. I think she might have been 23, 24.
Oh, I hate it here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when Harry Met Sally, where they were supposed to be the same age, her and Billy Crystal, I think she was like 7 or 8 years younger than he was.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, but like people are at least, for all its faults, social media has done some good in terms of calling out the grossness of these wild disparities in age.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of the real tough things about social media. It's so much damage, but there's a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
It's been nice to have that get called out.
Yeah,
it is. It's like, I've been watching as people were celebrating the death of Twitter. Like a lot of Black women were saying, hey, that also means the death of Black Twitter, which has done an amazing amount of good. Has brought this community together and has taught a whole bunch of people a whole lot of shit you didn't know before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, so there's so many fucking awful people in this social media world. But yeah, like in the 80s, as we're talking about this, and I'm saying it sucks that Shelley Long is like, going to be treated this way. She's going to be going out into the world. In 1987, that was just treated as a matter of fact. Like, all right, no, Shelley Long, she's 37. What the hell am I going to do with her? Ugh. All right, she's going to be the mom of a Girl Scout troop.
She's too pretty to be a character actress. Like she's too slight to be like a sex bot. Like there's all these.
She's known for comedy. She's not going to get the big drama roles. Yeah.
And let's not forget, she fucking kills it in the Brady Bunch movies. Two movies which I really really enjoy. She's hysterical in those movies.
Yes.
I know the lore of the Brady Bunch movies. She was in that.
She's Carol Brady.
She's mom. She's Carol Brady.
Oh.
Yeah. Put it on the list, Dave.
I'm putting it on.
My mind is blown.
Oh my God. Her and Gary Cole are so incredible in those movies.
What?
They really nail those parts in a way that's tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like to do it in a way that feels very honest and sincere while also completely understanding that they are, making fun of these roles that existed before, but in a loving way. It's hard to do, and they both crush it. It's great.
No, you guys, I'm like horrified right now in this with this revelation. I'm not okay.
Did you ever watch the TV show?
I would catch like random reruns on Nick at Night, but I don't think I've ever watched an episode in its entirety.
Well, maybe we won't do that movie then. I don't think that movie plays for people who did not grow up with the show.
Okay.
I think that's a necessary thing.
It's a great point. Like this actor is capable of doing these incredibly specific, hard things that, like, literally, I don't think anybody else in Hollywood could have pulled off the way she pulled off.
Yeah.
But the tracks available to her, for other mainstream projects are so kind of reductive and not supportive of what Shelley Long can do. It's really a bummer.
Yeah. But it is also a reminder, why she left when she did. She's like, it might already be too late, but I'm going to find out because this window is not open to me much longer. So if I don't do it now, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, art and life fucking mirrors, at this point,
Yep.
Damn it. Well, yep. I'm glad that at least, I hate to see a person of color lose a job, but I'm glad Don Lemon at least told on himself so that we could all get a glimpse of like the misogyny that goes on. And and to see that, like, no, you're the number on your birth certificate doesn't determine your value as a person.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's why I change it constantly. All right. Jokes of the week. All right, my joke of the week. I very much thought about the moment with Sam and Diane, but it's a great little moment, and I wanted to shout it out because it's that I should have written his name down too. It's that barfly who like is the younger barfly who pops up. Steve, yes, thank you. Who's in the show forever and is never named. But yeah, when Sam's had that moment of like, I had my moment in the sun. Maybe I wasn't the best relief pitcher in the world. Yeah, you were, Sammy. Thank you. But yeah, just that beautifully underplayed, that beautiful moment where Steve knows he's supposed to say that and believes it in his heart. And Sam said, thank you, you got that. Okay. I needed someone to say it. Yeah. I really love that moment.
That was so great. It was also like James Burrows never uses like those kind of cuts. He always puts the joke like in the frame. He always has the guy say it from the corner of the frame. And the fact that that we did a jump cut over to him was like so like jarring and funny. I really like that.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Tookie, what was your joke of the week?
Maybe it wasn't the funniest line of the show, but I liked it. It sparked joy, if you will, because it's a glimpse of future Frasier. And when Sumner, when he meets Sumner Snow, and he's like, "Oh, I'm Dr. Frasier Crane. You might have heard of me." "Oh, I haven't." And Frasier storms off like, "I believe the floor is open for consideration for pompous ass of the year."
Yeah, that was in the running for mine. Yeah, I like that one a lot.
But I do have a runner-up.
Okay.
Which is Carla calling in the future and still mad about him being married.
Because I love her. Yes.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The good jokes all over this one this week.
Yeah.
Dave, your joke of the week.
It's just the beat after Woody puts the phone down. The phone call comes in, interrupts the wedding, and says, "For Miss Chambers, can you take a message, please? She's kind of busy." He says, "All right." And he's, effusive. "Oh, wow. Okay." Puts the phone down and just sits. And everybody's like, finally says, like, "What was it?" I love that moment.
Great beat. Great beat. Our 80s things. For me, it's a final shout out because they're in the back room to that cigarette machine. I can't think of anything more 80s than that cigarette machine, because in the 90s it was gone. You might have had a couple lingering in the occasional bar because you had to be carded to get in a bar. But it just does not exist anymore. And I remembered those being everywhere when I was a kid. I remember going and putting money in to get cigarettes for my mom as a child, going to operate that machine because it had the big long pole. Yeah. The extra long pole to release the carton. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it was, like Tookie, have you ever used a cigarette machine?
No.
Yeah. That's why it's an 80s thing. If it was a 90s thing, Tookie would remember it. That's when I know it's an 80s thing. When Dave is like, yeah, and Tookie's like, what?
Okay, well, I clocked a machine in the back room, but I didn't know specifically it's a cigarette machine.
That is a cigarette machine. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. That's what that machine is. Yeah. As I watched 73-year-old people get carded at Cumberland Farms for a pack of Salem 100s, I look back on that machine where if you had 5 quarters, you had cigarettes.
5 quarters, $1.25.
Yeah. And just think about, like with the money that a pack of cigarettes costs too, how long you'd have to spend putting quarters in that machine to actually get a pack of cigarettes out of it.
5 quarters.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of this
These were not expensive.
Nope.
Wow.
Yep.
It's almost like they wanted you to smoke.
Yeah. It's almost like they knew they could take a small loss on the first pack. Dave, your 80s thing of the week.
We've been talking about it this whole time. The confluence of plot and or rather fiction and fact. The way they have to the way that the writers sort of formed this episode around Diane's character's needs and the way that the show kind of acquiesced or was forced to sort of evolve around Shelley Long's needs, and the fact that we in the audience were aware of kind of both of those things. That's sort of like that's maybe it's less an 80s thing, but it's more like kind of like the first time I could remember that sort of like double narrative, that kind of like meta reality along with the reality of the show kind of existing, like understanding that this actor is doing something for themselves and then being given a show where the character is doing something for themselves, and watching those two things happen simultaneously was really, really interesting. And I can't remember it happening prior to this.
I like it. Tookie, your 80s things of the week.
Yeah. Okay. So I know we typically steer away from the fashions, but Diane's shirt, like the collared shirt dress with the gold watch combo, felt very of a time, sartorially. Mentioning Pinochle a lot. A lot of these 80s things that I've clocked have kind of are in that intersection of like 80s, but also is it a meme, right? So the dining room furniture that they have in their pink house, Sam talking about taking a trip to the Orient. Woof. The big leather chair in their living room leapt out at me. The style of prosthetics used to age Sam and Diane up felt very much not in keeping with what prosthetic makeup looks like today. Diane's old lady outfit with the doily collar and brooch, and I'm like, is that a meme more so than just like what people in the 80s thought old women would dress like?
I saw that doily.
Yeah
I saw that doily around a few necks.
Okay, so it was a thing. Okay. This one I don't know how much you guys pay attention. I don't know how closely you guys pay attention to interior decor, but and I would see this a lot in like past media, and it's kind of a meme, I guess, but old people, when they decorate their house with plants, it's always ferns. Ferns are everywhere in old
That
people.
was very 80s.
It's very 80s.
Ferns were the plant of the 80s,
Yeah, my mom had a ton of ferns.
Yeah, ferns were everywhere. The fact that Sam and Diane still had a corded phone, that corded plastic phone that they took calls on, and that glimpse into the future would be maybe 5 or 6 years from now. It would have been 2025 or 2028 or 9.
Yeah.
Maybe 2030. And they still have
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out exactly when that time was, because, all right, his son is pitching for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And winning 25 games. So you're probably talking about 30 years from then. So you're talking about like 2017.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that ballpark.
Yeah.
If they waited, because they were both in their mid to late 30s, they're going to have a couple of kids. They got to start pretty soon.
Right.
So like 5 years from now, nope. That scene is happening right around now at the latest. I would think just by math. I think it's a little unsettling because we know what Ted Danson and Shelley Long look like now, and it's not like that.
No.
But it's what you imagine yourself to be at that age. Yeah. But yeah, that's got to be right around. Even if they waited a few years to 1990, it's like that picture would be 33 right now. Even then, they're not expecting a whole bunch of 35 to 37-year-olds to be winning 25 games in the majors. We're right in that ballpark.
Yeah. So the corded phone, the fact that the 2000s seemed like centuries away in the 80s.
All right, Tookie, I got to cut you off because we're getting that was many 80s things, and we only have 6 minutes left, and you haven't done whiteness yet.
Oh, that's
and
true.
We haven't announced the next show.
But there are only two things left on the list aside from
but your 2 things take 5 minutes, so we're just going to cut that off, and you can throw it on the Facebook page.
But there's
all right, Tookie, how white was this week's episode?
Pretty white.
Okay.
We had, let's see, several scenes with 0 people of color. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 people of color.
All right. Going out on a low note.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
A pale note,
Right.
as it were.
Yeah, on a very pale note. All right. But a lovely, lovely final episode. And this is our final episode. And we have announcements to make about our future project. One of which is that we need your suggestions. Please, you can private message us or put them right on the Facebook page for what to title our next venture, which is tentatively titled, which we're not probably going to use, but Mike and Dave make Tookie watch movies. So yeah, that is the premise. We are taking movies that Dave and I love that Tookie has never seen, which is basically every movie that Dave and I love. And she will watch it, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to break down why we love it. We're going to see what Tookie thinks about it. We're going to reflect upon it and all these good things that age well, things that age poorly. So if you have a suggestion for a title, please let us know. It is going to be available on this page still visually. We're going to still put it out there visually, but we are uploading it to wherever you get your podcasts. So it's going to be on Spotify. It'll be on Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff, so that the people who've been wanting to listen to these things as an audio file will be able to do that. So it's going to be our podcast. We want some suggestions for what to call our podcast, please. We're probably going to let our categories evolve organically, I think, at first, and just sort of see what we're talking about. And then if there are topics that come up every week, we'll probably just make those formal categories. But if you have a big request for a formal category, you can, of course, make it there. And that's the big stuff. We're going to be off for a couple of weeks because we want to record a few, get a few in the bank, and then be able to put them out consistently every week, just like we have with this. So it's going to be a couple of weeks off, and we'll make a big announcement when you can download the new show. Do we have any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
I'll just say the original music for the last scene, that Sam and Diane dancing scene, was originally Irving Berlin's What'll I Do? I'm going to post the video with the original music because it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a perfect piece of music. And it's a bummer that stuff gets lost in streaming, so I'll throw it up on the Facebook page.
Nice.
This was a ride.
Sure
This was a ride. And I think I learned too much.
And it's not over yet. The learning continues.
Oh, boy. Some deep dives coming up.
Oh, you have no idea. Oh, and so we've got our list together. Tookie gets to pick what movie she wants each time. Mm-hmm. So we've given Tookie the list. We will be adding to the list, and Tookie gets to decide what movie we're doing every week. So it might be, action movie, drama, comedy, whatever it is. And we'll let you know ahead of time so you can watch it ahead of time. I think instead of surprising people with it, I'd like people to be able to watch it ahead of time and know what they're coming into.
Yeah.
So we will do that. I don't know. So whatever titles you want to be, dad movies for Tookie. The dad movie Diary of a Mad Black Woman. That could be there. Whatever people are thinking of, we are open to hearing. So let us know what it is. And we had a blast. We'll miss you. Cheers. We'll miss you, gang.
Thank you to our loyal viewer, watcher, listeners.
Thank you, everyone. Little shout out to Kelly, who is always the viewer who watched with us in live time every week, and our most faithful commentator. Love you, Kelly. Thank you very much for all the faith. For everybody who's been watching, I'm Mike. That's Dave. That's Tookie. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks. I believe we are starting with Roadhouse. Did we agree that?
I think we did.
All right. So brace yourself. Roadhouse is going to be our first one. Dalton's in town. Don't fuck with Dalton, and we'll miss you. Bye, everybody.